sure to go check out my show with this week's guest, the EWF Heavyweight Champion, Fidel Bravo.
Champion Fidel Bravo Bravo.
Hi everyone, welcome to another. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Doing Yarn podcast, and today I have a very special guest. It is the Desert Pro Wrestling and the EWF champion, Fidel Bravo.
How are you doing, everyone? Thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Well, thanks for having me.
So let's get started. So were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Yeah, ever since I can remember as a little kid, I grew up watching Mexican wrestling a lot. Every summer I'd go to Mexico, and my mom would take me to the shows over there as a kid.
So who were you a fan
of? Kind of like like Eddie Guerrero's, Rey Mysterio's, Jericho, like the smaller guys that were like doing a lot of the stuff that the bigger guys weren't doing.
Okay. So you were a fan of like high flyers?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you have a favorite match to watch?
That's a good question. One of my personal favorites is one that it's pretty popular among wrestlers, Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio in the Halloween Havoc match they had, because I think that's where they showed their chemistry the most and did like a lot of unique things that aren't done to this day in the wrestling world.
So how did you get started in wrestling?
I got started because there was Rob Van Dam was having a autograph signing at a Walmart close by, and I guess EWF was hosting it. And when I went to get my autograph from Rob Van Dam, I saw flyers for the shows here in Covina, and I came to the shows here in Covina, and then I found out they have a wrestling school, and I was like, wrestling school, and I went as soon as I found out.
So who was your trainer here?
Jesse Hernandez. When I first started, he was the main one showing me things, and along with Brandon Gatson and Ryan Taylor, they were the people that were showing me a lot of the stuff in the beginning when I first started.
Oh, okay. So how long have you been wrestling?
I hit 10 years in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Who
okay.
was your first opponent in wrestling, and how did that match go?
My first opponent was right now he's the head of a promotion called I think Wildcat Pro or something like that in New Orleans. His name.
Louisiana, right?
Yeah, in Louisiana. Yeah, it's Luke Cox. He was my first match, and I think it went pretty good. For my first match, and I didn't know what was gonna happen, but he happened to show up to the show, and they asked me if I had my gear, and I did. So that's how the first match got to happen. It's kind of crazy because Luke Cox has done a lot of things, and he's been around. So it was I was pretty lucky to have someone like that as my first match.
Cool. How does it feel to be the top man here at EWF, being the champion?
It's a pretty crazy feeling because like I just said, I've been doing this for 10 years, and as hard as I always tried, it was always hard to climb up here, specifically in the EWF, because there's a lot of competition. There's always new talent coming in and out. So I felt for most of my career I'd almost get there and didn't, almost get there and didn't, and now that I'm finally at the top, it's it's a pretty incredible feeling. But now it's just about staying at the top and making sure everyone knows that I'm always on top of my game.
Okay, so you have a match tonight against Mariachi Loco.
Yep.
Good luck in your match tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's going to be a great match.
Yep. No rules, super libre, no referee. So we're gonna take it all to the limit just for this belt tonight.
It's all for that belt. Up to this point, who has been your favorite opponent in wrestling?
You know, it's kind of a hard question to answer because I have had a few notable opponents. If I had to pick, I can't really pick one. I could think of 3 people, and that'd be Adrian Quest, Dickie Mayer, and Andy Brown. Because I feel like whenever I get in the ring with any of those guys, like we came from the same camp, but we've all spread our wings and learned from different places where maybe the other ones haven't. So when we face off against each other, it's like familiar grounds, but we're still learning from each other, and it's always like more intense than the last. So those are probably my 3 favorite opponents.
So do you have a dream opponent to wrestle?
I've always wanted to wrestle Tajiri because he's also been one of my favorites since I always started. So it's always been a dream match of mine to be able to take on Tajiri one-on-one.
So who has been your biggest influence in wrestling?
It's funny because before I started, like I watched a lot of the high flying stuff, and I thought that's how I wanted to wrestle, like Rey Mysterio. But then once I started wrestling, I realized like everything he does is pretty difficult, and I couldn't pull it off. So then I feel like once that happened, I started leaning more towards kind of the way that Eddie Guerrero wrestles, or the way that like Chris Jericho wrestles, where it's like kind of fancy and kind of flying, but they're not, And like later on, I watched Spanky on television along with Paul London and Tajiri and those guys that were like they could be high flying without flying, if that makes sense. So I feel like I've taken my most from wrestlers like that.
Okay, so we have reached the end of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just one last question: is there any way people can follow you on any social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Fidel Bravo. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat at Bravo2Fidel. And yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, going to show the belts here and go picture. Double champ. Okay, so thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you.